Well, time out. How did I get here? Well, when I first bought Barnum, the hardtop wasn't in great shape. It looked like I needed to pull all the fixtures and fittings off, scrape the paint and repaint the fiberglass. But actually, when I stripped it back, the fiberglass was rotten as well. So I'd layered on top of the wood with OSB, which you normally wouldn't do. But my mate that was going to fiberglass it said the type of fiberglass they have, it has to be done on OSB. Fair enough, so that's what I did. But then if you've watched my Boatyard Diaries, you'll remember that due to a change in the financial climate, I had to get out the boatyard. With the change of plan due to the time limit, I put thin ply on top of the OSB, then used a latex paint on top of that. By my second winter on the water, the temperature dropped to -6, the paint contracted, it split, and then I spent the next year plus either recoating it with more paint or patching it up with various materials. Which leads us to this. As I was on the winter mooring for 2024 to 2025, I thought let's pull the panels off and do a better patch up job and see what I can do with it. But as soon as I took those solar panels off, it became evident how bad things had got. So I started levering up one corner to see if I could see the original screws that held the hardtop down. As you can imagine, being built in 1974, they had no real heads to them, so I had to take a different approach. And that was to cut it away bit by bit. I'm not going to record all of this because it's going to be a very lengthy process. My mate just popped up, one who's going to help me with the when we get the new materials. My plan of action was to rip down all the UPVC on the inside, get rid of that, and then using a reciprocating saw, cut away the hardtop in sections. First of many trips to the skip. This is all just the UPVC and kind of like the surrounding wood. I might go back to Wicks to get something to make this template, which I didn't get this morning. I think I need to do that really once I get all the solar cables out of the way. I was also using a hole cutter so I could make a hole in each of the corners and attack it from whatever end with the reciprocating saw. I was struggling a little bit with my battery powered saw, and later on my mate lent me his main saw. I think where the wood was soaked with water and we were talking 3 layers of wood, it was just a bit too much for that. That's me done today. Got a total of 6 sections cut out. There's one section aside at the front to do. They're bigger sections, and also we'll have to see how it's attached to the front. But the idea of cutting all this out is because you can't see the screws where it bolts to the frame, and obviously being on a boat, it's hard to have the step ladder set up to be up there. So by cutting the inner parts out, I can have the ladders inside and then work my way around the edges, either unscrewing them or doing whatever's necessary without damaging the frame. I think the front will be a little bit harder, hey now, just because of the angle. There's a section cuts in and then it overhangs outside as well. One of the other giveaways as to how much water was soaked in the wood was the weight of each section. I was taking them across to a friend's garden and a mate of mine was loading them on the bonfire, and he mentioned to me later on he picked that first section up and couldn't believe the weight of it. I'll put a clip in a little bit later on here to show how much it had been weighing the boat down. In the clip I think I say we decided it was about 150 kilo. But after chatting about it and seeing how much the boat had lifted up at the back, we now think it had to be over 200 kilo. Somebody jokingly said yesterday when I was taking all this wood out to a friend's bonfire, bloody hell, back of your boat must be so much lighter. And can you see the blue line, which is the anti-foul, and there's like a tide mark above it, so that's almost where the boat was sitting. So that's how much it's come up at the back, just because of all the water that was soaked in the wood. So I don't know if you can see, this one here is the one that has an arc to it that Peter's cut, so that's going on the stern frame. These pieces here are going to be used to brace the centre beam rather than replacing the centre beam, and then these ones here are going to be going on the inside of the sides of the frame, just to sturdy it a little bit, but also give it a bit more, there's more to hit when you put the ply on top, if that makes sense. If I just go in here, what's also helpful that Peter's lent me these telescopic stands, because one of the things that was on my mind was how I was going to do with this. So this bar obviously holds the frame up at the back, but it would have been attached to the roof. So it was a bit like, how am I going to get the rest of this off to put the ply on when there's going to be nothing holding the roof? And when we came to measure, Peter saw that and he went, oh yeah, that is a pain, but I've got some stands you can borrow. So I've got those. Yeah, have some lunch and then have a little siesta and then see what I can do this afternoon. Tuesday the 4th. Been sorting out materials. The mate took me to Travis Perkins to pick up some ply. What we decided to do was this centre beam that had dropped. I mean, I'm not surprised because we reckon it must have had 150 kilo down on it. But anyway, lifted that up and used these bits either side that was actually decking. You know, use that to bring it back up and make it a hell of a lot stronger. Also means when the ply goes over the top, you've got a bit more to aim for. There we go. My mate Toby had taken me down to get the materials and also cut the front of the marine ply where it needed to be shaped, following the template that we'd made up from the old hardtop. Obviously it was a one-hit job, and he's more skilled at that kind of thing than me, so he kindly did that for me, and then we lifted the panels on, and then he left me to crack on screwing them down. But I just wanted to make sure it all looked good, all in the right place, because the frame is not straight, as in it widens at one end and it does the other. Trying to get the measurements and the overhang correctly that I was happy with and wasn't going to keep banging my head when I was walking down the decks. Before screwing it down, certain parts of the ply to frame, particularly the front, I used a lot of CT1 to help bond, to hold the shape, because you'll see when it's done, obviously it pitches up, but also there's a lot of curves at the front that are designed when the water hits, when the rain hits, that it disperses straight off rather than going all the way down the hard top and falling off at the stern. So a lot of it, the pitch is very high at the front, and I say it's got those curves at the front as well. So I needed that bonding agent to help the screws hold it in place, as well as act as sealant. The primer I'm using, my mate recommended, it's called Primacon. It can be used on wood, steel or fiberglass boats. It's actually for the hull that sits in the water. Now the first coat I put on, doesn't matter how much you put on the brush, it was like working with glue on that first coat. You really had to push it into the wood. You couldn't just do normal brush strokes with it, but it wasn't a bad thing. And to my mind, if a primer is designed to be sitting in the water, albeit painted over the top, then it must be pretty special for just having rain coming down on it. The roof got about 4 coats of primer because Been trying to make a decision which way to go with either fiberglass in it, either just painting it, or my mate had a great idea of this company does. It's like thin aluminium with a composite in the centre and then another thin aluminium the other side. It was quite expensive, but what happened was once that hardtop was screwed down, it looked like such a classic shape, and I knew what colour I wanted to do it, so I opted for just doing the primer and then the paint over the top. It means some upkeep, as in every year or every 2 years max redoing the paint, but I'm fine with that. You know, I live on this boat and it's the kind of thing I'd happily do in the summer. I stand by that. I'm sure some people are going to scream that I should have fiberglassed it, but I stand by what I did. I'm so happy with it. And remember, this is marine ply as well, so marine ply will last, I mean, if not looked after, 10 years, if looked after, 25 years. So here you see I'm running CT1 between the joins of the ply down the centre beam. Now another coat of paint is going on, and I actually sorted out a strip of wood that was going to go over that centre joint as well and then be sealed again. Just put the last thick coat of Primacon on, so I'll leave that now till tomorrow. Weather depending, I can get the first coat of the top black on. That's a real thick layer. Hey now, I've put on there, so yeah, feel good about that. This is the strip of wood that was to go over the joins of the 2 bits of ply, so that was obviously primered, sealed down. Obviously there's already sealant between the joins, but that was sealed down, and then I ran sealant either side of that piece of wood, so that was sort of what we're going to say, that was triple protected. Come on. Either side of my boat, on the sides, there are these cutaways to allow airflow to the engine, and they have these covers on the top, which I did in Oxford blue. When I had the idea to use out in the hardtop, because I was originally going to go with white, which would be more reflective from the sun, I suddenly had this idea of going with the blue. I put that first coat on and I was completely sold. As I said earlier, the shape of the hardtop, now with this colour as well, it was such a classic look that I remember in the 70s and 80s. Put a bead of CT1 around the outside edge. I was going to go get some black Sikaflex, but then I thought actually with the white it'd be easier to tell if it's ever coming away from the hardtop, and most of it should be covered up by a trim anyway. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Next week will be about inside the hardtop, also the fitment of the solar panels and some engine maintenance.